guys, it's Sam again, back-to-back video postings. This week our topic is trans stereotypes, and I guess I get to be the one to kick it off this week. When I was thinking about it, there were a lot of things that came to mind, and truthfully I could probably go on for hours and hours and hours and hours talking about it. And I think a lot of the guys will probably feel the same way. I'm not really sure. But I think one that I want to touch on a lot is that transgender individuals are simply just going from one end of the binary to the other. I think there's this idea that when one transitions, they're just going from X to Y. Male to female, female to male. And while that's absolutely totally okay, and I don't want to, I really don't want to upset anyone when I say this, but it's totally okay for people to identify that way. And it's totally okay for people to have narratives that say that. But I think a lot of trans narratives aren't being heard that are non-binary, or for people that identify as more trans-feminine, trans-masculine, agender, things like that. And maybe that's an entire trans umbrella discussion. But I think it's really important that we open our ears to trans narratives that exist outside of binary ways of thinking. But also, a lot of trans men and trans women view their transitions as not a transition of gender, but as a transition of expression or a transition of experience or identity, because a lot of trans narratives exist in the space of, I've always identified this way. It's just a matter of coming to terms, realizing it, and, coming out and existing in spaces that people hadn't existed in prior to, points of realization or whatever. So I think, that's a big one that I think we really need to educate people on, is like, however you identify is okay, and it's totally absolutely okay to not identify on the binary, and to also identify on the binary. I think it's it's not a big deal. Also, I think there's this thing on my arm. I should quit picking at it. Another one that I want to hit on is that all trans people need to experience dysphoria in order to be trans. I think that's really harmful and really invasive thinking for trans people that don't experience that, or don't experience that as a root of their trans identity. I think that a lot of people think that trans people hate their bodies, and so they're taking all of these drastic measures, by taking hormones or getting gender affirming surgeries as a way of alleviating dysphoria, which is definitely true for a lot of people. I would say that it's true for me, and I know a handful of people that it's true for. But some people don't ever feel the need to get on hormones or to acquire surgeries. They just exist in ways that they hadn't prior, and that's their own form of transition, and that's okay. I am a big fan of just supporting people in their journeys and supporting people in the acquiring of their identities. And I think that a lot of stereotypes exist in spaces in which people are they just don't understand what it means to be trans, or what it is that we as trans people go through. And I think that a lot of times we just need to take that extra step to educate and meet people where they're at, because, we have every right to be angry, but we also, in order to create the most amount of positive thinking, have to just meet people where they're at. And when I say that, I just mean, don't ostracize the people that are at least trying to make sense of where you're coming from. obviously I'm not here to lecture, and I'm not here to teach you guys that. Like I said, there are so many things I could say about it. Like, I could make a list for hours and hours and hours and hours. But I'm just coming from a place of, like, telling our stories and our narratives so that these stereotypes that exist all over the place, from, trans people are perverts to trans people are confused. I think that all those stereotypes come from a place of misunderstanding and confusion, and whether or not you want to help educate is totally fine. If you don't want to be the educator, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. I like to try and educate the people in my life as to what's going on in the best way that I know possible. And sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes I have to pick my battles, but I think that we as trans people understand a lot of oppression, and I think that a lot of these stereotypes that you'll hear throughout the week might be similar or might be different to mine. But either way, they're stereotypes, and they're maybe even myths 99% of the time. So hopefully that didn't upset any of you guys. I know that some topics are really sensitive, and people get upset. So if you do get upset, or you liked what I had to say, leave a comment down below. I'm going to link my social media to every video that I post, so please, come say hi. We can have a discussion about it. All I know is my story, and my story is the only story that I can vouch for and validate. So tell your story. Let people know how you feel and how you identify and where you came from, and other people will take heed and do the same. Hopefully I'll be seeing you guys next week. Like I said, have any questions, let me know.